Hi, this is Nick with some more woodworking. I have a quick idea that I want to share with you guys. Before we get to that, if you could like, share, and subscribe, helps out a ton. We're just recently past the 500 mark. Once we get to 1,000, I'll be giving away a free bit to a lucky subscriber. So if you subscribe, you're automatically entered. So I was thinking about whenever you do long tool paths, especially like carves and stuff like that, carving away, and you come back to your machine later, say, you ran out of time and you need to do it later or do another part of it, maintaining your X and your Y zeros. What I did on a lot of pieces is I just drill a little tiny hole with my machine and set that as my X and Y zero. But I had another thought. What if I made a bracket that would store that for me and make it abundantly easy to keep my zeros? And if you're able to keep your zeros, I've seen people lose power. I've seen people, have to stop mid-cut, anything like that. If you could keep your zeros, you could come right back to it, because I've had a couple projects where I tried getting the zero as close as possible and it just never looked right. So it's like either run everything all at once or don't run it at all. So I had an idea. Now, if only that would just happen. Oh, and there it is. With this guy, you can see it says X0, Y0. It is exactly 1 inch from here to here, 1 inch from here to here. It would go into the threaded inserts in this guy. So what you do with this, I know it looks counterintuitive because this is the Y-axis, but if you look at it, X is going this way, so that would give you your X0. Y goes this way, so that would give you your Y0. No matter what bit that you're using in your current project, if you use a V bit, some sort of a V bit, it is a perfect pointer for the absolute center of this shaft, which is the center of where your machine's pointing down, which is the absolute zero. Say you come back to your machine later, you turned it off. Take this guy and thread them on in. So he's threaded on in with your material. If you always push it up against here, and I'll show you this in a little bit, we'll go over to the computer. From here to here is 1 inch, from here to here is 1 inch. So when you set up your file, at the very, very end, add 2 inches to the Y and to the X, and that'll add 1 inch here, 1 inch here, which you don't really care about, 1 inch here, and 1 inch here. My thoughts on this are, if you bring your machine over, say it's a day later, you did whatever you need to do, you secure this back down, make sure it's pushed up tight against here, there's no dust or contaminants messing you up. Bring your machine on over, move it this way, and once you get it right here and centered right in there, you can take your X0, because that's your X, then take your machine very, very carefully, move it on over here, move it on around, get it right to there, take your Y0. Now your X and your Y0, if you set your machine to 0, 0 without your Z0, this is only for your material. If you set your machine, it'll basically point to like right there where these two lines would intersect, which is 1 inch X and Y from your material. Now you can come back at any time. And then the other trick that I would do with this is take your Z offset from your spoil board, take your Z from your spoil board and run almost all your files like that, unless there's a special case that you really need to take it off of your material. If you do that, make sure that you leave enough space to where your block will fit, because if you machined everything down and this is no longer the right height, you're not going to get the right zero anymore. You can also use with the same file that I'll have on Etsy, these guys here, and put these along, lock them in all the way along and keep this guy there, and then just use something to push it against there. They have those lock cams or anything else to push your material against there, maybe even use screws, but this will line you up if you have a really big board, and it will allow you to keep your X and your Y zeros from day to day, or if you do say a pour and then after that you want to plane it off or anything else, you're set. Now if you stuck with me, I'll walk you through the computer with the rest of this and guide you with like the rest of my thoughts on this and kind of explain it a little bit more, but that's the premise of it, is using a V-bit, grabbing your X0, your Y0, and being able to cut your material later or anything else, not lose your spot. So hopefully this helps you guys, and I'll bring you on over. So I have this set up, test and cut, just generic, whatever. What we'll do is before, so I say I just finished my whole job, right? And I'll do a circle or a square as well, so you can still see like what our real piece is here. So 10 by 10. And align that. There we go. So all this is lined up. This is our real piece of material. The box around there will signify that. Now, prior to actually cutting anything, if you use these brackets, edit, job size and position. Now we want it on the bottom left, absolutely. Machine bed, because remember we're going to take the Z0 from the machine bed, because you're going to come back to this later. You don't know where anything's going to move to, anything else, and your machine bed should be right on. And then we're going to add 2 inches on here, so 12, 12. Click OK. And then see how it moved it like this. What you can do is grab this guy and then center it. So once that's centered, you have to recalculate your one toolpath. Okay, and you see how it's 1 inch all the way around. We added 2 inches, but it added 1 inch all the way around. You can double check that by doing that, and looking, that's 1 inch and 1 inch. So now you can export the toolpaths and use the X0 and the Y0 that I showed you earlier with that bracket, and come back to your project at any time, not worry about losing anything. It's the most elegant solution that I found. I know there's other ones out there, but this is what I found, and hopefully this helps you guys. If this helps you out at all, the link to the Etsy file will be in the description below. And if you could, like, share, and subscribe, it helps out a ton, and hopefully this saves you guys. You know, if you lose one piece that was, 6 hours of cutting, and this saved you from doing that, I think it's more than worth its weight in gold. So thanks again. See you in the next one.